So in August I was here to talk about lots of food, my farming on vacant lots, and we did actually obtain the property. So I wrote them a check and closed about a week ago, actually. And now we own it, and we're starting to dig holes and plant trees, and we'll be ready to start building fence and shed and all the stuff and sort of build it out into our little urban farm.
Where is it? What is the...
It's 1645 Portland Ave.
Okay.
And it's about a third of an acre. So we're excited about that. Lots of food. So here I am with sort of lots of lots of food. I am going to tell you today about a lot of things that grow very easily here in our climate in Louisville that a lot of people don't know that you can grow for yourself. Of course, we know that if you have a special greenhouse or lights or special conditions, there's a whole list of things you can grow, like coffee or chocolate tree or, all sorts of exotic things, if you have all these things. But all of the stuff on the table are things that grow very readily here without any special conditions or care. So we'll start off with loofah. This is one that I talk to a lot of people about, and I was talking to Melissa about it a while back, and she said, really, you can grow loofah here? And I said, yeah, you can grow loofah here. So this is kind of a ratty one. We haven't cleaned it up all the way, but you can sort of see how vegetative it is, and I would love to pass these around, or I don't know. This is what it looks like after it's done and mature and dry, and you peel it and process it and get it ready to use. We use these for bathing, of course, but also they're really good dishwashing sponge. They're more durable than a plastic sponge, more durable than any plastic sponge you'll ever buy. And when it's totally dead and it's done, you can just compost it. So that's what it looks like when it's done. When it's growing, it looks like this. It's a really productive vine. It grows really big, and it's got these beautiful charismatic flowers that attract lots of pollinators. It's fun to watch the bees on them, and actually there's nectaries at the nodes where the leaves attach to the stem. There's actually ants that come and they eat the nectar off these too. So that's kind of a nice wildlife insect, food for insects in our ecosystem. Loofah is a really fun thing to grow because not only can it grow up and make shade in your garden space, but you can eat it when it's young. One of your vendors out here at the farmer's market actually sells loofah that are green, sort of like a summer squash that you can cook up and eat. Very fun vegetable. And here's one that's more mature. It's not dried out yet and ready to harvest as a loofah, but it was growing through the chain link fence, so I cut it and brought it so you can see what it looks like on the inside. You can see the fibers developing. So when it's done and dried out, you can kind of imagine what it's going to look like here. So, should I pass?
Yeah. That's
okay.
And
I also have seeds. If anybody wants to take a couple seeds, the seeds that are in here are a mishmash. What I've discovered is the ones that are black are ones that will actually grow. So if you're going to take a couple, take the black ones. Leave me a couple. Don't take all of them. But there's also some that are lighter colored. These are not ones that are mature and viable seeds. So just take the black ones.
Should we wait until after maybe and do all the seeds that
we can do that.
Sure.
Okay, we'll leave this.
I don't want to have any seedless heads.
Good idea. Yeah, these are kind of dusty too.
How and when do you plant the seeds?
Oh yeah, so the loofah, you would plant it like a squash or a gourd. Plant it in May after the frost. Plant it someplace where it can climb up. And it needs a warm place. It needs good sunshine, just like a squash or a gourd or something. I'm glad you asked that because I'm trying to mention that for all the things. Another one that's a loofah cousin is other gourds. We know hard-shell gourd. There's different kinds of hard-shell gourds. This one I like because it's one that you can use for practical purposes. I use it as a soup ladle. So I have seeds for this one too. It's another one that makes a very aggressive vine. So if you have something that it will climb up and give it a lot of space, it's a good one for that. Another one that attracts bees and bumblebees and beautiful flowers. So
how many squash wood fruit on, or how many gourds?
This one's very productive. We got dozens on one plant.
Okay.
So it's very productive. On the loofah, likewise, if it's got good soil and it gets watered and it's got good sun, dozens.
And then how do you process it to be your soup ladle? Like
this one, it pretty much dries out like this. I cut it just with a good, kind of hardware knife and scraped the seeds out of it, and that's the seeds.
Oh, wow.
Out of one?
Yeah, this is about as many seeds as you get from one of these.
Wow.
So this is a South American native. They cut them off like this and make a cup out of them, and they drink yerba mate out of it. So we came across these when we were in the Peace Corps in South America, that people use them as cups. So they're also good for that purpose. And I don't know what you call this in English.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, I wish I knew. Actually, I only know the native name for it where we got the seeds in South America. So, but there are lots of gourds like this. Where we live too.
And what is the name of it?
It's kaugwa. I just say cup gourd. People call it cup gourd. Okay, moving on to leafy green things. Lemongrass. Maybe you've seen this at the farmer's market. I don't see it very often, but it grows really well here, and you can use it if you do any Thai cooking. It's used in Thai cooking. You can also use it fresh for tea or dried for tea. We dry a bunch of it and use it in the winter for tea. It's also great for iced tea or hot tea, and it's a great cat toy. Actually, my cat really loves it. So if you're willing to accept the consequences of what might happen if your cat eats that, it's so fragrant and nice, and it doesn't winter. It doesn't overwinter here. It doesn't like the cold weather. So I plant it in a pot and bring it inside, and it survives over the winter as a house plant. And then we put it back outside in the spring. So sometimes you'll see this at nurseries. You see little starts at a nursery now. I'm seeing lemongrass sometimes. That's how I started this one. And you can also divide it if you dig it carefully. I was trying to get one that had a root on it. Sometimes you can dig it at the base and kind of split it and divide it if you want to share some of it with a friend. It grows in a big clump.
And then what parts do you use when you're cooking with it?
You could use the whole, I think you use the whole thing. I mean, a lot of times if you're simmering a pot of soup or curry or something, you might put this whole thing in and then kind of pull it out before you actually, because you don't want to actually eat it. It's kind of tough. But very fragrant, really lovely stuff. Lemongrass. Okay. Have you guys seen these before? These I just had in my garden. So I brought them when I was in the garden this morning. These are long beans. It's an Asian kind of green bean. And it's my dad, who's not much of a vegetable eater, went out to my garden with me, and I was like, Dad, have you ever seen these? These are really cool. They're green beans. He's like, why would you want that much green bean? So anyway, these, we get hundreds of these on this plant. It's too, so it's like legs. So that's a fun one. They're called Chinese long beans, and there's a few different varieties of these, but I love these. We dry them and save this, when they're dry off the vine, we save seeds for those too. Kind of fun climbing bean. Stevia. Have you ever had stevia in your tea or coffee? Anybody ever had it as a white powder that you buy at the grocery store for $10 a package? Nurseries are now seeing this at nurseries in the springtime as a little start. I bought some at a farmer's market, actually. I think it was the Phoenix Hill Farmer's Market. Had some last spring. And if you've never had this, I'll pass it around and you should taste it, taste the little leaf of it. Again, the South America connection, where it's in the place where it's native to, the native name for it is sweet leaf. And if you don't like paying $10 a package for an all-natural healthy sweetener, alternative to sugar, this is one that you can grow. I cut this, I put it in a pot, and I cut it multiple times through the season, and use it fresh or dry it, so you can have it throughout the year. You can put a few leaves of this in a teacup if you're brewing tea. You can put it in a pot if you're brewing loose tea. You can put it in to sweeten your tea. If you want it for beverage sweetening for other things, I also take a bunch of this, put a fistful of it in a sauce pot, cover it with water, boil it, and just let it steep for 20 minutes in that hot water. And then strain that out, squeeze the good juice out of it, and then you've got a pretty nicely concentrated sweet liquid sweetener, and you can put that in your tea, you can make lemonade with it, you can put it in your coffee, and I really like it for that. I haven't really experimented grinding up the leaves and using that for baking or anything. I think theoretically you could do that, but I haven't tried that, so if anybody has ever done that or know about that, I'd love to know more about that. But very productive. Again, it's not winter hardy, so if you put it in a pot, you can bring it in and have it as a house plant in the winter and put it back out in the spring. It doesn't germinate. It's not easy to germinate from seed, so even though that does flower and produce seeds, it's very fussy about germinating. So I have started that at nurseries and just kind of keep it going year after year. Okay, on to seedy things. Oh, here's another vegetative thing. Ginger. This I dug out yesterday. If you take a a little knob of ginger that you get from the grocery store. Sometimes you'll see some that look like they've got little knobs that look like they want to grow. Some of them are not, some of them are dried out and look pretty dead. But if you get one that looks like it's kind of knobby, put it in a pot, shallow, in May or June when the frost has passed. And then that thing will grow, it'll sprout, it'll grow, it'll make knobs sort of growing laterally. And then, if you've got like a big pot for it to spread out, then around this time of year when it's starting to get cold, these leaves, are getting a little touch of cold on them, then you can dig it out, and then the volume, I would say the volume for us probably doubles. From what you started, you get about double that amount at the end of the season. So it's kind of a novelty. I mean, I would never grow as much ginger as I actually want to eat throughout the season, right? But it's kind of a fun novelty thing to grow, and it's kind of a charismatic plant for your patio, and smells really good.
What size pots do you grow them in?
What size of a pot? This one was in a planter pot, about like so, kind of a rectangular pot. And I think we put maybe 2 or 3 in there, knowing how much, give them some space to spread out. And so it just did really well. They need a good amount of water, because Hawaii, where they're native to, is kind of a wet climate. So I just think warm and wet, and they're pretty happy. How are we doing on time?
Good.
Okay.
And without
All right. Seeds, fruits and seeds.
7 minutes.
Amaranth. People know amaranth. It's a super grain, sort of like quinoa. It's become pretty popular, and I see it at the grocery store for about $10 a pound. So
And Lamita's been bringing that in the green leaf.
the leaves, exactly.
Okay.
So the leaves are super nutritious, sort of like loofah. It's like a multi-purpose plant. The leaves are very nutritious, and I've seen people grow it for the leaves. I've grown it and use it as a green in the summertime. Once some of the other greens, like your spinach, in the summertime won't grow. Some of the other greens, like our kale and our collards, get bugs on them. Amaranth is very hardy in the summer, so it's nice to have for a cooked green in the summer. And it's quite lovely. There are varieties of it that are grown as an ornamental, and you see things like this that are planted ornamentally in people's yards. There's different varieties, but this was a volunteer. I just saved it because it's kind of a fun one. This I planted just from seed that I bought at the grocery store. So this is what came out. This is what it looks like right now. It will continue to dry, and it's a little bit messy, so I'm going to pass it around in the sack. When it dries, it makes, and you crumble it up, this is what it looks like. And then if you crumble that with your hands in a big bowl and just blow the chaff off of it, well, I got a YouTube video about how to do that. You just blow all the chaff off of it, and then you end up with like a clean seed like this, which looks like what you bought at the grocery store. So it's an outside activity. It's kind of messy, but you can grow it. Again, it's like this, the leaves are very nutritious. The seed is there for you if you let that go to seed, and it is a North American native. It was here when white people landed on the shores of North America, and it's still here with us. And it has lots of wild weed kind of cousins too. So.
Do you cook the greens, the
Yeah.
leaves, it's like greens? Or
Yeah, just like any other green, or you can mix it with other greens. But yeah, they don't have a strong flavor. They're really nice in the summertime once our other greens sort of fall off. So it's kind of nice when it's always there. And some of the leaves on ones like that, they're also kind of a purple leaf, so they're also really pretty. When they're small, you can put them in a salad and just add some color and stuff. And usually, those things that have a dark color are also really very nutritious and full of good vitamins for us. Sorry, we're gonna need a Crystal get in here after I'm done.
You're an outdoor activity.
Yeah, no, this is outside. All right, passion fruit. You guys ever seen passion fruit growing in Kentucky? Another North American native. I don't think it's very common, but a lot of people don't even realize that it grows here. It's a vine. A lot of our things today are vines. If you have space for this to grow, it's a very aggressive, abundant, prolific vine. This is the stem that I just pulled out. If you grow it, if you plant it in one place, it will come up and invade other places. So be careful if you do plant it. It is actually a thing you should probably plan ahead for. It needs something to climb up. And last year, the place where I had it growing in one of my shared gardens, the gazebo collapsed. So the place where it was growing up it didn't have a good place to climb, and that's why the fruit didn't do as well this year. In previous years, we've had really, really, really good fruit off of it, like hundreds. But this is the passion fruit. Actually, those seeds look pretty good. So if you want to nibble on a couple of those, I'll pass those around. It's sort of like if you feel it, it's sort of like a hollow, like a puffy, hollow fruit, and I think that's where the name comes from, because it almost pops when you squeeze it, because it's got like air inside of it. It's really fun. So I'll pass that. Maybe just.
So do you eat the seeds kind of like a
Yeah, you eat,
like the
and you can eat the whole seed. You can crunch
pomegranate
it. You can crunch the whole seed and eat it.
Is it citrusy?
Some of them are sweet and some of them are sour. Actually, I think there's like quite a bit of variation in different ones. I think it's a really nice flavor, sort of like just a snacking thing. Like I don't think you do anything else with it besides just eat it right out of the pod. This book has a whole chapter about it. It's called Uncommon Fruits for Every Garden, and there's a chapter in here about maypop, a passion flower for the north. There's also some beautiful pictures in here in the center piece, including some pictures of the passion flower. This one is one that maybe you've seen growing. People grow ornamental varieties mainly for the flowers. The bumblebees love them, which is really fun. But this is what the flower looks like, so that's just a gorgeous thing to have growing in your yard or garden too. So I'll pass this around, people can look. The other thing that's in this book that I want to share with you is kiwi. Actinidia is the scientific name, so they've got a chapter about that in there. And
Lee, R-E-I-C-H.
Lee Reich. Yeah, he has a couple different books. And there's some really fun stuff in there too that some of you may not have seen before. So kiwi is a vine. It's a perennial, just like the maypop. So you plant it once and then it'll come back year after year. This is a very, very small cutting of the plant. It grows very productively. It makes a lot of foliage. And it will climb up anything and everything. Kiwis known, all varieties of kiwis are really known to eat trellises, eat through fences and trellises. So plan well where you're going to put it. It makes wonderful shade in the summer, and it doesn't mind a little bit of shade. It actually, I think its native habitat is maybe a woodland understory climber. So kiwis come male and female. If you want to grow it for fruit, you need the male for the pollen, and you need the female for the female fruits the female flowers that will develop into fruits. We planted this 3 years ago, and we haven't gotten any flowers yet. It takes several years for it to think about it before it, I mean, even though it's a huge vine, it takes a while before it'll actually flower and make fruit. So we're hoping someday we'll get some fruit off of it. I know other people who have grown these, and it's taken 8 years before you ever get any fruits. The fruits are not the fuzzy kiwis that we're used to seeing at the grocery store. They're called a hardy kiwi, and they're hardy up to zone 3, which is like into southern Canada. They're very cold hardy, a lot of these varieties. They grow, I think some of them grow in Alaska. They're a little, about the size of a large green grape, like the grapes that we get at the grocery store. They're about that size, and they're bald, they're naked, so you just pop the whole thing in your mouth, and the inside of it's like a little miniature kiwi. It's really delicious. You can eat them fresh. When we used to live in Wisconsin, there was a big vine of them at the botanical gardens where it was very well established, and we would pop them off the fence and eat them there. You can freeze them and have them, in the winter frozen for your smoothies or something. And it's just kind of a fun novelty thing that a lot of people don't realize grows here.
And that's that whole idea of things taking a while to start flowering. I think that's common on just even berries, right?
Yeah, I mean, berries can be a couple, 3 years depending on what they are. Yeah, I think things that are perennials that stay alive for a long time. It's a longer term investment, yeah, for some of these. So this one we're still waiting. We just planted it kind of in hopes that it'll grow. But we have seen it. We have seen what they can do, and so that's why we were very excited to start it. Yeah, so that's fine. A couple last things here. Flaxseed. Here we're on to like the protein and oil seeds. Flaxseed is more of a cooler weather crop that's grown in North Dakota and Minnesota commercially. I planted some just out of the packet that I got at the grocery store to see how it would do. I planted it in the spring, early, like maybe April. And then in June, I harvested the seed capsules. So this doesn't look like much, but I will pass it around. I want you to take one of these seed capsules that are in here, pop it in your hand, and look inside, and you'll see those flax seeds in the capsules. So it did grow. It was quite successful. I have to play with how to process this. I'm imagining that you'd crush it, sort of like the amaranth, crush it, and then maybe get the chaff, blow the chaff off, and keep the seeds in the bottom. So I might do a little more research about that. You can also grow flax as a fiber plant. I think commercially, if you grow it, you can harvest it earlier in the season and then use the fiber off of it and maybe not let it go to seed, or you can let it grow a little bit longer and harvest it for the seed. It's a neat one. I just think it's another one that's like kind of expensive to buy it, but very nutritious and certainly very viable to grow in our climate. So it might be a fun one to experiment with.
So did this just come off of the
Yeah, so
leaves
it's a
off
plant. It's a plant about this tall off the ground, couple feet high, and it's got a nice blue flower on it. I just grew a little row of it next to my carrots, and cut the seed, kind of cut the top of it off where the seeds were, and dried it on some newspapers at home before I put it in there. And it's an annual, so you plant the seed every year. Yeah, and it's cool. It's cool weather. It doesn't like the summer here, so it kind of just. But who does? Fenugreek. Have you guys heard of fenugreek? Mm-hmm. It's in Indian cooking and some Asian cooking. This is from the Indian grocery store. The greens are also grown as a vegetable. You can sprout the seed and eat it as a sprout. You can grow it as a vegetable. I grew some of it. Again, a cool weather, springtime thing. And I don't have any of it because it's not in season right now. But it's a fun one, kind of like an exotic, unusual kind of crop, but very delicious. It's in the legume family, so it's sort of like people grow alfalfa, eat alfalfa greens, different things, and very nutritious because of that. So that's just a little placeholder. Sesame. Especially when it's really hot here in our summers. Maybe this summer wasn't such a good summer for sesame, I'm not sure. Dave Keel at Field 51 Farms in Goshen, he's a CSA farm in Goshen, he's grown sesame the last couple of years. It's a tall plant like this, and it has a lot of seed pods on it at the top of the plant. They dry out, and then you kind of turn it upside down and you shake it, and you shake the sesame seeds out, and do a little bit more cleaning and whatever, but they come out pretty clean. So I would just plant, the sesame that you get from the store, and it might be kind of a fun thing to have a few plants in the backyard. A lot of places in the world where sesame is grown commercially are places where cotton is grown or has been grown historically as a commercial crop. And so people who've been around Kentucky for a long time know that we can grow cotton here. In the olden days, people did grow cotton, for their own farms. So it's one that I think, merits a little more attention and experimentation. Peanuts, likewise. We can grow peanuts here. They grow a lot of peanuts in Virginia, which has a very similar climate to ours, especially in places where we have a little looser soil, sandy soil. Peanuts will do better, and I have a couple different varieties that I'm planning to play with next season and see what we can grow. There's a Carolina peanut, Virginia peanut. There's Texas varieties too, Tennessee peanut. So that's one that I would love to see more people grow for ourselves, kind of just a fun, nutritious.
Are they green?
The peanuts?
Are they dry?
You could harvest them fresh and have them as green peanuts, or you could let them dry and have them, like we think of a dry or roasted peanut. Yeah, if you grow it yourself, you can harvest it whenever you want, right?
But I mean, those seeds that you have there, those are probably dry.
Yeah, these are dry, right? They sell these from the seed company. These are from Southern Exposure Seed Exchange, which I think is in Arkansas. I'm not sure where they are actually. Maybe Virginia. Yeah, these are all dried out for storing long term, as seed that you grow in your garden. So, yeah, I'll let you know what happens. But I've heard people growing peanuts here. I've talked to people who've been gardening for a long time, and they say, yeah, we grow peanuts. So I like to remind people that we should be growing more of these too.
Are you planning on incorporating some or all of this into
my vacant lots? rest assured that the lots of food will have some strange things growing there that people have never seen before. I'm not sure what all we're going to have there, but I'd love to have some of these things there.
And what do you do with the food in the lots? Like, is that
We own it. Once it's established and once we're ready, we'll be able to sell it just like a family farm, just like anybody would sell things off a farm.
Mhm.
So that's our idea with it. Yeah.
And then how do you plan out your own space? Like I know you all grow in lots of different
Yeah.
pots, so with all these vines,
Yeah.
like what is it, do you just, how much effort do you do in that front end in your planning stage to make sure you can accommodate everything?
Right. Well, the things that are perennials, if you're only planting once, like a kiwi or the passion fruit, you want to plant that in a place where you think it's going to have the ability to stick around for a while. This one we planted on a fence, on a wooden fence on the edge of our property, so it's growing up that fence, which we hope is going to be there a long time. I hope that fence will survive the kiwi, although the way the kiwi's doing, I'm not sure if the kiwi might outlast it. You want to grow it next to a permanent structure or have some sort of long-term trellis there that can support the growth of that year after year. This gets woody and it will stay, you'll see it, be there woody over the winter with its leaves falling off. The passion fruit actually dies all the way back, so there's nothing there. There's nothing woody in the wintertime, but it'll just re-sprout and go crazy again in the spring. So all those things are good things to keep into consideration. The loofahs we've grown really successfully on chain link fences. We've grown them on the side of a gazebo, like the kind of gazebo you get at home. A lot of people have a nice gazebo in the backyard. You can put something there, maybe some wires for it to climb up. It's an annual, so again, in the wintertime it's going to all die back, but then in the late summer you have a little bit of shade in your yard. It can add some, living space in your outside. So, yes, it is good to plan ahead and not be overwhelmed when you have that thing growing and you don't know what to do with it. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
out and sharing all of your
Thank
expertise
you.
with us. We
Good
wish you all the
luck
best.
growing more weird stuff.